I feel like people will get that.
Huh?
I don't know what I said.
I said like,
So in our last episode, our Ask an Expert, we had on an organization called the Truth Campaign, and one of their big things is they're educational, but is that with populations under 18 years old, only 7% of the current U.S. population is smoking, which is like a pretty crazy low number in terms of where it has been in terms of how many people aren't smoking. So one thing that they're really pushing is that if we can really target that youth population, that, you know, as you said, like people starting at 13 to 18, those young people, and keep them from smoking, then eventually we can have a smoke-free generation where tobacco use is like actually eradicated. So do you guys feel like that could actually happen? Like, can you imagine yourself living in a world that is tobacco free, or do you feel like it's always going to be a part of our lives?
I don't feel like it's gonna ever like 100% go down. Like, you know, there's nobody smoking tobacco, and I also feel that it would take more than like a year. So like, you know, you gotta have that our generation now growing up and teaching the kids now, like they'll have kids teaching them not to do the same exact thing.
Mm-hmm. We can have faith in it, but I feel like it won't happen because then, like you said, 13 to 18 is that age when if you start doing something, you're gonna be prolonged to doing it for a couple years. So then it won't be as fast to quit. But I could see that later, probably a couple years, we can have another generation that'll do it. But I don't see it this generation.
Like Christian said, I don't think that it will ever be 100% gone, but I feel like we can decrease the numbers just by talking about it more and more and more, and even more than it is now. And yeah,
that partially answers my next question, which was going to be, like, what do you feel like will make a difference in ending it or heading in that direction at least? And you mentioned just a lot of education. Anything to add?
Also, I think like you should, like, instead of targeting the people like they're already in that stage, go ahead or go behind, like, you know, instead of like they're 13, go like start at like 10
Target
or
the
11,
earlier
12,
ages.
you know?
Yeah.
So that they know getting into that stage that it's not good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I strongly agree with that.
me too.
And as someone that, you know, works on this issue, what do you feel like is the most important way to kind of combat this problem?
Well, definitely taking an educational approach, just educating kids on, you know, the negative side effects, how it's harmful, how it affects their body, things like that. In Rochester, Reality Check works with kids 13 to 18 years of age, so that's kind of like 8th grade through high school. So that's who we focus on. But like I mentioned earlier, in New York State, the average age of a new smoker is 13. So, you know, it might not be a bad idea to try to drop that down a little bit to possibly like a 10 to 18.
Do you know of any existing programs that do target earlier ages?
A majority of them are the teenagers, so like 13 to 18, just because sometimes when we're at a health fair, if we have an event at a school with younger kids, parents or kids kind of get offended, like, oh, my child's too young, or I don't really know about, you know, tobacco use. They don't want their kids to find out more information or be educated because they're afraid that then they may try it. So it goes hand in hand, but on the other side, it could prevent them from, you know, being curious and trying it, or it could open their eyes to, oh, look at all these cool flavors, or, you know, e-cigs look cool to build because it's like technology now. You can build your pen. They have like superhero pens, over 400 flavors. So some parents just want to keep their kids away from that. So that's why I think most companies do 13 to 18 too. But pros and cons to both.
Right.
Yeah.
And then kind of speaking about, we've already talked about the advertising, but what's what's kind of the nature of the advertising? Like when you said you heard a lot of stuff on the radio or sometimes seeing stuff on TV, like what do you feel like is the messages that you're getting from those ads about tobacco?
Well, the ones I see are usually all telling you basically stop smoking or don't do it at all. It's not good. They give, like, you'll see like one 30-second commercial just giving 3 or 4 facts about how it's bad, and it does impact you.
Another commercial, they'll say like the way it helps you health wise, like they'll show past smokers and how their body is, and then how they gotta go through a lot of medical issues. So that pretty much persuaded me on not smoking.
Yeah,
Kind of
exactly what
scary.
Demetrius said. It's billboards all over, things like that, but people aren't really paying attention to billboards. Like if you're driving, you're not gonna, oh, what's that? You need to keep your eyes on the road. You're not paying attention to that. So like, I feel like rallies or forums and things like that will like educate a large group of people, or even like getting it more in schools, because I know my school talks about it a lot, but I don't really know about other schools, and it's at an early age that cigarettes are like starting to be smoked. So yeah.
When you look at that 13-year-old, we'll say, who's just starting to smoke, where do you think they're getting their positive influences to smoke? Do you think, like, why do you think they're starting? Do you think it's just like natural childhood curiosity, or do you think it's because other people are pressuring them? Do you think it's because they're hearing, ads for vape shops on the radio, or?
I think it's definitely a mixture of all those things. Like you see it and you're already curious. When you're curious, you really want to try it. Plus you hear people saying, "Oh yeah, this is how it's like this, how it's good," and all that. So you try it, and that leads to addiction.
Peer pressure is a big thing, especially nowadays in schools. They're high school and middle school. So a middle schooler that which is be 13, they might see high schoolers do it, and they might think, "Oh, it's cool, so we should try it." And then nowadays, social media and with like movie stars and celebrities and everything, they might see it. They're smoking and doing that, so they might think, "Oh, I could do the same thing."
Peer pressure, exactly what he said. Peer pressure, influences, commercials, everything. All of that is a really big part.
You mentioned, Demetrius, kids in middle school being around it. In terms of kids in the high school, do you guys find that people are using tobacco products either like on school property or in school or around school?
Around school, because frankly, we're right there, and there's a lot of corner stores and a lot of gas stations. So they'll, like, if school start at 8:30, they'll get to school at 8 o'clock. They'll walk around the corner, smoke, and then they'll come right to school. And then some students, like, the e-cigs, they bring them in school. And I see one kid, he uses it in the bathroom and don't set up no smoke detector, so he might go in there for 5 minutes, then leave right out, and no one knows what happens.
Yeah, he basically summed it up.
Yeah. I know you mentioned that you'd had some experience with e-cigarettes being kind of like on the rise in terms of school use.
Yeah, so locally, I've spoken with different superintendents, and that's been the main issue, not so much cigarettes or chewing tobacco, the e-cigs. And kids, could just go in the bathroom or in the hall, get a quick puff. Certain school districts have taken away up to like 40 e-cigs a day. So it's a huge issue in several school districts locally.
Where do you guys think, and this might be a question for you too, where are those young kids? Obviously the legal age to buy cigarettes or tobacco products is 18, but where are those 13 to 17-year-olds getting their tobacco?
Taking it from their parents.
Getting friends to buy them for them.
Or even a random stranger. Like, certain people, like they ask and they don't care. They just do it. Go in and get it for them, and that's really it.
Yeah, I mean, those are all definitely possible ways which would make sense for someone who's not 18 to get their hands on tobacco products.
It's just something I'm curious about. So either I don't know if you have any like actual personal experience with this, but a parent who smokes, do you think they tend to be like more or less okay with their child smoking? You know, in terms of like, because we've said how like it has a big influence on you, how like if your parent or somebody in your family smokes, you're more likely to. So I was just wondering, like, you know, these 13 to 18-year-olds that are smoking, like, are their parents okay with it? Is it like done secretly, or?
I feel like it's usually like they know. Parents know, like they know. You see, if I can see the commercials, they definitely see everything, and they feel like they're going through it. They know it's not good, so they are most likely telling them, no, don't do it, blah blah blah. But still, you gotta lead by influence. You can't just tell them no, and then they see you doing it. You know?
Mm-hmm.
I agree with him, and like most parents, they be like they want what's best for their children. So, of course, they might say no to something that they know is bad. But most kids, they do it behind their back, and some parents not into it like they're supposed to be. So a lot of kids nowadays get a lot of free time. So you might not know what kids might do nowadays behind their parents' back.
I think a lot of parents that smoke try to tell their children not to smoke just because they know it's bad. In some situations, it might be that they just don't want to stop, and it's just their getaway and their relaxing time. But I think some parents also, they're trying to quit, but they just like, because they know how bad it is, so they're telling their children not to for that reason.
Yeah. And then I'm just curious, it just popped into my head that I didn't ask you if you thought it was feasible to have a generation that was completely smoke-free or tobacco-free.
Well, I mean, that's the goal, is to, be the next generation that's tobacco-free. We've come a long way with decreasing smoking rates, but then, with e-cigs coming out, that kind of boosted them back up, just as far as kids who use e-cigs. But hopefully one day we'll be able to, combat that and get, knowledge and education out there about the e-cigs and any other type of trend that the tobacco company, creates. So one day, hopefully, it'll be, a reachable goal.
Cool. All right, thanks guys for joining us. I really appreciate you guys coming, and thanks Joe for being my co-host. This has been Clara Wagner with Talk Back for Teens. You can join the discussion at talkbackforteens.com and see all the other good stuff we've got on our website.
Move aside and let the man go through. Let the man go through. Move aside and let the man go through.
So I can't crack my back like that.
Move aside and let the man go through. Let the man go through.
The desk. So you can like push back on the desk and then like my back can crack.
If I stole somebody else's wave to fly up, and if I rose up
I got Netflix. I hate commercials now.
Me too.
some kind of verb,
Cigarette butts, because that's one thing I was wondering.
something unseen.
Are you sure?